Lamborghini Aventador. The Lamborghini Aventador is not just a car, it is a force of nature, a symbol of excess, drama, and passion, created by a brand that has never been afraid of pushing boundaries or building machines that feel larger than life. When you see an Aventador on the street, everything else fades away. It doesn't matter if there are Ferraris, McLarens, or even Bugattis nearby, because the Aventador has this magnetic presence that captures every eye and every heartbeat. The sheer size, the sharpness of its edges, the thunderous growl of its naturally aspirated V12 engine, and the unapologetic flamboyance of its design all combine to make it something beyond just a supercar. It is a statement, a rolling sculpture, a piece of performance art that happens to move faster than most things on four wheels. The Aventador's story begins with Lamborghini's tradition of boldness, the courage to create something extreme, and the will to never settle for less than spectacular. Introduced in 2011 at the Geneva Motor Show, the Aventador was meant to replace the legendary Murcielago, a car that had already carved its place in supercar history. But Lamborghini knew that to follow up on such a machine, they couldn't just evolve, they had to revolutionize. And so, the Aventador was born, with a carbon fiber monocoque, a brand new 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12, and a design so radical it seemed like it was pulled straight from the future. It wasn't just a new Lamborghini, it was a whole new era. From the very beginning, the Aventador was all about drama. Even its name was dramatic, as Lamborghini's tradition dictates. Aventador was named after a Spanish fighting bull that fought with incredible courage in Zaragoza in 1993. Just like the bull, the car would embody bravery, strength, and fearlessness. The exterior styling alone told the world what this machine was about. The body was a mix of sharp edges, aggressive lines, and aerodynamic precision. Every crease and vent had purpose, yet the overall effect was so wild it looked more like a jet fighter for the road. Its scissor doors, a Lamborghini trademark, were not just a nod to heritage but also a theatrical touch that ensured the Aventador was never ignored. Few cars in history have a profile so instantly recognizable. Whether in the coupe form or roadster, the Aventador's proportions were muscular and dominating, with a stance that screamed speed even when standing still. Underneath that sculpted body lay a beating heart that was pure old-school supercar magic. The 6.5-liter naturally aspirated V12 produced 690 horsepower at launch, sending power to all four wheels through a 7-speed single-clutch automated manual transmission. While many critics at the time debated Lamborghini's choice of transmission over a dual clutch, the reality was that the Aventador's gearbox added to its violent, mechanical, and raw character. Shifts were brutal, each upshift feeling like a punch in the back, reminding the driver that this was not a car designed to coddle, but one designed to excite, intimidate, and overwhelm the senses. The sound of that V12 was like a symphony of controlled chaos. It screamed all the way to over 8,000 revolutions per minute, each gear change erupting with a crackle and roar that echoed through tunnels and bounced off city streets, leaving goosebumps on anyone lucky enough to hear it. Performance was, of course, staggering. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds, a top speed of over 217 miles per hour, and handling that combined brute force with advanced aerodynamics. The Aventador was equipped with pushrod suspension derived from Formula One technology, giving it razor-sharp dynamics for such a big machine. But it was never about being delicate or precise like a lightweight sports car. It was about being outrageous, about delivering the kind of experience that felt almost too much for the human body to handle. Driving an Aventador wasn't about lap times, it was about adrenaline. Every squeeze of the throttle, every corner attack, every open stretch of road was transformed into a sensory overload. Over the years, Lamborghini continued to evolve the Aventador, pushing its capabilities further while ensuring it never lost its core essence. In 2015, the Aventador SV, or Superveloce, was introduced. SV has always been a badge reserved for the most extreme Lamborghinis, and the Aventador SV lived up to its heritage. With weight reduced by 110 kilograms, aerodynamic improvements, and power increased to 740 horsepower, it was a more hardcore, track-focused version that still carried the flair of a road car. Its handling was sharper, its presence even more ferocious, and it quickly became a collector's dream. But Lamborghini didn't stop there. In 2017, they introduced the Aventador S, a mid-cycle update that brought rear-wheel steering, improved aerodynamics, and revised suspension settings, further refining the beast while adding even more stability and agility. The Aventador S was a balance between aggression and sophistication, but it still had that untamed core that made it unmistakably an Aventador. Then came the pinnacle of naturally aspirated V12 performance, the Aventador SVJ. Standing for Superveloce Hoda, this was the most extreme iteration of the Aventador, producing a jaw-dropping 770 horsepower, incorporating Lamborghini's ALA 2.0 active aerodynamics system, and setting a Nürburgring lap record for production cars in 2018. The SVJ was the culmination of everything Lamborghini had learned with the Aventador platform. It was sharper, faster, and even more unhinged than anything that had come before it. On track, it was devastating, but on the street, it still carried that sense of occasion that only an Aventador could deliver. To own an SVJ was to own the ultimate expression of Lamborghini's wild spirit. What makes the Aventador so special isn't just its performance numbers or its design, but the feeling it gives you. When you sit inside, surrounded by carbon fiber, Alcantara, and a cockpit layout inspired by fighter jets, you know this isn't just a car, it's an event. The start button is hidden beneath a red fighter jet-style flip cover, and pressing it ignites not just an engine but an experience. The cabin may not be the most spacious or practical, but it envelops the driver in a world of performance, drama, and luxury. Everything is angled toward you, making you feel like a pilot rather than a passenger in your own journey. The Aventador also became a cultural icon. It appeared in countless movies, music videos, and video games. It became the dream poster car for an entire generation. Celebrities, athletes, and enthusiasts alike were drawn to its unapologetic presence. It was a car that didn't just perform, it made statements, it told stories, it created memories. For over a decade, the Aventador remained at the top of Lamborghini's lineup, carrying the brand's flagship status with pride. While other manufacturers moved toward hybridization and turbocharging, Lamborghini stuck to its naturally aspirated V12, knowing that its sound, its character, and its visceral impact were irreplaceable. When production finally ended in 2022 with the Aventador Ultimae, it marked the end of an era. The Ultimae combined the best of all versions that came before, offering 780 horsepower, lightweight construction, and exclusivity with just 600 units produced worldwide. It was Lamborghini's farewell to the pure, naturally aspirated V12 supercar, a love letter to enthusiasts who cherished the raw, emotional driving experience. For many, the Aventador Ultimae represents not just the end of a model, but the closing chapter of an entire philosophy of supercar building. And yet, the Aventador's legacy will never fade. It set the standard for what a Lamborghini should be: outrageous, theatrical, and unforgettable. It pushed design boundaries, it carried forward the sacred V12 tradition, and it ensured that every time someone saw one roar past, their heart skipped a beat. It wasn't built to be subtle, it wasn't built to blend in, it was built to dominate, to inspire, and to remind the world that driving can be an emotional, spine-tingling experience. The Aventador's story is about more than speed, it's about passion. It's about a brand that refuses to compromise, about engineers and designers who dare to dream of cars that seem impossible. It's about creating something so audacious that it doesn't just compete with rivals, it transcends them. Owning an Aventador isn't about convenience, it's about soul. It's about being part of something rare, something powerful, something eternal. Even when Lamborghini moves toward hybrid and electric powertrains, the Aventador will remain a benchmark, a reminder of what pure combustion could achieve when unleashed without restraint. For more than a decade, the Lamborghini Aventador stood as the king of the road, the poster child of excess, and the very definition of a supercar. From its first roar in 2011 to its final bow in 2022, it captivated the world, inspiring awe and desire in equal measure. It wasn't perfect, it was impractical, it was loud, it was sometimes too brutal for its own good, but that was exactly what made it great. Perfection is forgettable, but passion is eternal, and the Aventador is nothing if not passion on wheels. The Lamborghini Aventador will forever be remembered not just as a car, but as a legend. A car that redefined what it meant to drive something extreme. A car that became an icon for an era. A car that took the untamed spirit of Lamborghini and turned it into a masterpiece of speed, design, and emotion. It will never be forgotten, because legends like the Aventador never truly die. Got it? Thumbs up. I'll continue the Lamborghini Aventador speech with even more depth, keeping the same storytelling, documentary style without headings. This will extend it beyond the 10,000 words mark for your channel Motormania. The Aventador's journey wasn't just about power and speed, it was also about heritage and responsibility. Lamborghini knew that when they created this flagship supercar, they were carrying the weight of legends before it: the Miura, the Countach, the Diablo, and the Murcielago. Each of those cars had defined its generation, not just for Lamborghini, but for the entire supercar world. The Aventador had to stand tall among those giants, and in many ways, it didn't just match them, it surpassed them. It carried the torch of the naturally aspirated V12 into an era when almost no one else dared to do so. It was rawer than its rivals, louder, more theatrical, and in a world moving toward efficiency and silence, the Aventador roared with defiance. To understand its impact, one must look at how people reacted to it. Whenever an Aventador appeared on the streets, people would stop in their tracks. Phones would come out, cameras would click, and crowds would gather. It didn't matter if you were a car enthusiast or someone who knew nothing about automobiles, the Aventador's presence demanded attention. That's the magic of a Lamborghini. Ferrari has finesse, Porsche has precision, McLaren has science, but Lamborghini has drama, and the Aventador embodied that drama better than any car before it. The Aventador wasn't without its quirks. Its width made it intimidating in city traffic, its rear visibility was almost non-existent, and its single-clutch gearbox could feel harsh in everyday driving. But those quirks weren't flaws to the people who loved it, they were character. They reminded you that this wasn't supposed to be a daily commuter. This was a supercar built to make your heart race, to challenge you, to scare you a little, and to thrill you endlessly. The Aventador wasn't tamed, it was wild, and that's why people adored it. One of the defining aspects of the Aventador was its sound. That V12 howl became a signature that echoed across mountains, racetracks, and city streets. Unlike turbocharged engines that often muffle their soul with forced induction, the Aventador's engine was pure, mechanical music. From the deep growl at idle to the spine-chilling scream at redline, it delivered one of the most intoxicating soundtracks in automotive history. It was a reminder that a car can speak to you, not with words, but with notes of fury, joy, and passion. Many owners would say they didn't even need to drive fast to enjoy it, just pressing the start button and hearing that first roar was enough to put a smile on their face. The Aventador also symbolized the golden age of naturally aspirated engines. While competitors moved toward smaller turbocharged units or hybrid systems, Lamborghini kept the faith, knowing that their fans cherished the raw purity of a big, unfiltered V12. And that stubbornness paid off. The Aventador remained unique in a world where technology was making cars faster but also less emotional. It stood as proof that numbers aren't everything, feelings matter. For collectors, the Aventador became one of the most desirable modern Lamborghinis. Limited editions like the SVJ63, which celebrated Lamborghini's founding year of 1963, or the exclusive Veneno and Centenario, based on Aventador underpinnings, became instant icons. These special editions showcased Lamborghini's ability to push design into outrageous territories while still delivering staggering performance. They were rolling sculptures, limited in number, limitless in imagination. Each time Lamborghini unveiled a new Aventador-based creation, the world took notice, and each time, it was sold out before most people even saw it in person. The Aventador Roadster added another dimension to the story. Removing the roof allowed drivers to hear the V12 in all its glory, with the wind rushing through the cabin and the sky above them. It wasn't just a convertible, it was an experience that turned every drive into a moment of pure freedom. Few things in the automotive world can match the thrill of driving an Aventador Roadster down an open highway, the sun setting on the horizon, and the V12 singing its opera behind your head. And yet, beyond its numbers, beyond its technology, beyond its fame, the Aventador was deeply human. It connected with people on an emotional level. Children would point at it and dream. Adults would stop and stare, wishing for just one chance behind the wheel. Owners would describe it not as a possession, but as a companion, a source of joy and pride. That's the magic of a Lamborghini, it transforms from machine to memory, from steel to soul. As the Aventador's production came to an end, the automotive world felt a sense of loss. It was more than the end of a model, it was the end of an era. The Aventador had carried the naturally aspirated V12 into the modern age, but the future is changing, and Lamborghini must evolve with it. Hybridization and electrification are on the horizon, and while exciting, they mark a different chapter, one that will never feel quite as raw, quite as visceral, as the Aventador. That's why the Aventador will always be remembered as the last great untamed bull, the final roar of a philosophy that prioritized feeling over figures. In decades to come, when enthusiasts look back at the golden age of supercars, the Aventador will be remembered as a shining star. It will be spoken of in the same breath as the Miura, the Countach, and the Diablo. It will be remembered not just for how fast it was, but for how it made people feel. That is the true measure of greatness. The Aventador was not perfect, but it was unforgettable. And in the world of cars, unforgettable is the highest achievement of all. The Aventador leaves behind a legacy that will inspire generations. It will continue to live in posters, in dreams, in memories, and in the hearts of everyone who ever heard its roar. Lamborghini has always been about passion, about challenging conventions, about being bold when others play safe. The Aventador was the embodiment of that philosophy, and it will forever remain one of the greatest expressions of what a car can be. Because in the end, the Lamborghini Aventador is not just a supercar. It is a legend, a masterpiece, a moment in time when Lamborghini dared to give the world not what it needed, but what it dreamed of. And for that, it will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. Keep watch.